where industry is currently failing is they're all racing ahead with expansion, but none of them are considering that the cost of our assets have effectively doubled in the last sort of 2.5 to 3 years. So the cost of capital's gone up. The resources to be able to operate that fleet are tighter and tighter, but yet they all want to do 5, 6, 7 times more material. And to put that into context of scale, if you sort of look at an area of land from just south of Leonora to Jundee, wind the clock back to 12 or 13 years, from a gold processing perspective, there was circa 8 million tonne annualised processing capacity through that part of the world.
Yes.
Now, with what is actually operating and what is planned, it's north of 40 million tonne annualised.
5 times.
5 times.
Yeah.
Now, at no point in time has anyone said, well, what does this mean as from a service? They all just expect that it's like taxi rank truck hire, right? You just ring up and you get the next Uber to sort it out. The reality is very different to that.
Welcome to Euroz Hartleys Finding the Front, where we get to know the people who front some of Western Australia's leading companies, providing you with real insights into the way they think and approach things, both in business and in life. So get the volume adjusted in your car or your headphones sorted and settle in for a great story. Here's your host, Tim Banfield.
Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Euroz Hartleys Finding the Front. For those of you who are not familiar with Euroz Hartleys is a proudly Western Australian financial services business. We specialise in the provision of private wealth management, corporate finance, institutional sales and targeted research services. Our slogan is built on relationships and connected by our people. If you'd like to learn more about Euroz Hartleys and the services we provide, please visit our website at www.eurozhartleys.com. Well, we continue with part 2 of our chat with very special guest Murray Leahy, founder and executive chair of Kalgoorlie-based integrated mining services and resource asset management company MLG Oz, stock code MLG. Murray continues his insights into the evolving nature of the MLG Oz business and the opportunities and the challenges facing a rapidly expanding gold sector. Muzz also shares an honest and open perspective and an insight into family, life, and an immense connection to community. As I mentioned at the start of part 1 of this episode, Murray is very highly regarded, with MLG forming part of the lifeblood of the Western Australian gold mining industry. He is humble, but the sort of guy who, when he speaks, people listen. This 2-part episode, right to the very end, reveals a journey and a mindset that you can't help but absolutely admire. So let's get into it. Muzz, the same article that was in that AFR around that time gave a bit of an insight into your thoughts going forward of the business. And, it was 2022 when you celebrated 20 years in the business. I just wanted to highlight a couple of bits that came out of that same article by Brad Thompson. Mr. Leahy sees the trend to mining more ore and running ever bigger processing mills to drive down costs in the WA gold industry as working in MLG's favour in the future. The good part about that is unless you build rail, and no gold company will, because the volume and mine life is not there to justify it, the only way to deal with logistics and movement of the material is via road train, he said. This is where we see a large portion of our opportunity coming in the not-too-distant future. It is this shift to bigger mines with bigger mining fleets, with bigger processing facilities and more volume. There's more ore coming in, more ore to be crushed, more tailings to be looked after, more roads to be maintained. Well, here we are in 2026 and it's pretty much unfolded.
It has, yes.
And that was in 2021. in May. So
Yeah.
we're really, we're 5 years down the track.
And I guess what I identified probably 5 or 6 years before that was the fact that, and it was actually the exposure to the iron ore industry that really sort of made me understand this at scale. We watched all those junior iron ore miners pop up, the Atlas Irons and so forth, as the iron ore price ramped up, and they all took off, but they're all high-cost producers. But yet the large-scale producers, that are 20, 30, 40 million tonne per annum operations, it was just sausage factory day in, day out. We never exposed ourselves strategically to those high-cost producers, only ever the big end-of-town low-cost producers. But I looked at it and went, the gold industry needs to embrace a similar thing. I think that in time we're going to see the transition to more centralised, large processing hubs fed with larger volume. And we'd sort of proved the concept around what was achievable with Mark Zepner and the team at Ramelius sort of 10 years earlier with their Vivian project, where we were trucking ore 280 kilometres to their Mount Magnet mill, and it reinvigorated Mount Magnet and really supported Ramelius's growth, right? That to me proved that distance isn't necessarily a barrier, it's efficiency and scale that drives the capacity to be sustainable in the long term.
Yes.
So I could see that in time expansion was going to come from a processing perspective. With that expansion would come a requirement to upscale the service sector to be able to support it. And that's really what we've seen play out with this wave of expansion. This is prior to the gold price going up, by the way. This is back when gold was $2,000-$3,000 an ounce. Driving up, the reality of it is if you've got a 1 million tonne per annum processing plant, you're at $40 a tonne from a processing cost perspective. If you've got a 7 million tonne per annum processing plant, the capital cost to deliver that's probably only double of the 1 to 1.5 million tonne per annum plant. The amount of people to run it is the same.
Yes. But
your incremental milling cost goes from sort of 40 back to 18 or 20. So your capacity to be able to stand the cycle of commodity price coming off is far greater as a processor of gold ore and as a miner and producer of metal. So I could see that that's the way it was going to go, and that's the way it's played out, with a real shift to large central processing hubs designed to keep the operational cost low. It allows you to upscale the mining fleet. So from a mining perspective, we will now see most open pit mines go from 100-tonne trucks to 150 or 200-tonne trucks, which drives scale and efficiency gain in the actual mining element. But the thing that's hit its peak is the piece that joins it all together. And what I mean by hit its peak, you can't build bigger road trains than what we've got.
No.
So every tonne that goes up is another tonne that's incrementally got to be moved at the same scale as what it was previously, and that's where the MLG business sits.
So the hub and spoke model is now key to the growth of MLG.
Correct.
And you're now across effectively civil and mining, crushing and screening, bulk haulage and site services and construction material, all delivering in there and thereabouts the expansion of these hub and spoke models, or to do the haulage just back and forth?
No, it's very much an integrated model. So if you think about a processing hub, and this is the way we look at it internally within our business, processing hubs or mills, as they get called, are typically long life assets, large amount of capital, and they run for years.
Yes.
Most of them have been, the older ones are now getting towards 40 years old. There's newer ones being built. There's expansions going on and so forth. The different resources that feed them come on and off. There might be an open pit that then goes underground. So the open pit miner will finish, and then the underground contractor will start. But the ore flow needs to continue to come. So our business model is one where we take our suite of services and deliver it in an integrated way in support of that processing infrastructure.
Got it.
So we will be based at the mill. We will have our support infrastructure at the mill, and we'll effectively look after all of the inbound material and the outgoing material too. So we'll manage the tails dam, we'll construct the roads, we'll truck their ore, we'll crush their material, and we'll be really the go-to organisation on site to do all of the peripheral stuff associated with that, supporting that processing facility.
Got it. So, Muzz, whenever we see a gold producer come out with their costs. Just tell us a little bit about what your view is on the costs of them doing the production.
So there's key drivers to that, right? Historically, the suite of services that we offer and deliver on a day-to-day basis didn't make up that larger portion of the total cost of delivery for most miners, gold miners. So, and if you break it down into buckets, you've got the fixed infrastructure, the processing facility that the miner owns, and that'll have both a fixed and variable cost that runs into their all-in sustaining cost per ounce. Then they'll have their mining cost, and that'll be either owner-operator mining fleet or contractor mining fleet, but it'll be the cost associated with mining that resource. And then you've got what historically had been deemed ancillary costs, the trucking of ore, the crushing of ore, the management of the tails dam and so forth. It all falls into an ancillary bucket. Proportionally it stays the same regardless of, let's say it's 15% of the total cost of delivery per ounce is ancillary costs associated with that particular operation. When it's at 1.5 million tonne per annum processing capacity, 15% of the total cost is not much. But when the mill goes to 8 million tonne, 15% of the total cost is actually a large dollar figure.
Yes.
And I think that's one thing that's been lost in translation as all of these hubs have started to grow in scale is the actual requirement to service each of those facilities now is so much larger in both dollar terms, but also fleet requirement, people requirement, and so forth. And if we're seeing any challenges in terms of delivery across our wider customer base, it's the fact that so many people are expanding at the same point in time without actually standing back and taking any consideration for what it's going to mean to their $250 million mill expansion, about being able to service it, right? So I think that's the scale of the growth in processing infrastructure and the requirement to be able to service it hasn't been materially considered. That then flows through to cost.
Yes.
So if you can strategically plan to procure fleet and structure it so it's there to deliver in a timely manner over a long-term contract period, you get the best all-in cost of delivery. But if you take a short 2 or 3 year approach, which you could do previously when the scale was smaller, but you're trying to do a lot more material movement over a shorter period of time or crush more or manage more tails, then inevitably the contractor's got to build more cost in. If you don't have an adequate workshop, if you don't have an adequate road network that's been constructed properly and you're doing it all ad hoc, it comes at a high degree of cost. And I think that's the biggest risk that the gold industry faces at the moment.
It's almost like the variations in a house.
Correct. It's just like the variations in a house. When you structure it, plan it, and execute to that plan in a delivered way, you get the lowest all-in cost. If you do it and we suffer from this a lot in that our customer base gets very focused on their processing infrastructure and their mine, then all of a sudden they'll wake up one day and go, oh shit, we've got all this other stuff that's got to be done too. Yeah. Quick, get someone. And so you're scrambling with really short lead times, with short contractual periods that you're trying to amortise fleet over. We are a little bit, to a degree, the forgotten about child that all of a sudden needs to be looked after because you're pivotal to the service, right? If we're not there, it doesn't happen.
Yes. It's interesting, Muzz, that you're not, by the sounds of things, not brought in earlier into the conversation if you're the chosen provider of those services.
I think the thing that the West Australian resources industry has been spoilt with over the last 30 years is a high-quality supplier base, right?
Yes.
If you talk to people that operate in different jurisdictions, even within Australia, within Queensland, people that are operating within Africa or in quite different strategically locations compared to the goldfields of Western Australia, they'll all tell you the same thing. They never realised how good the supply network was until they went away.
Yes.
And then they come back and it's like, we're very, very fortunate to have such a strong supplier base. I think where industry is currently failing is they're all racing ahead with expansion, but but none of them are considering that the cost of our assets have effectively doubled in the last sort of 2.5 to 3 years. So the cost of capital's gone up. The resources to be able to operate that fleet are tighter and tighter, but yet they all want to do 5, 6, 7 times more material. And to put that into context of scale, if you sort of look at an area of land from just south of Leonora to Jundee, wind the clock back to 12 or 13 years, from a gold processing perspective, there was circa 8 million tonne annualised processing capacity through that part of the world.
Yes.
Now, with what is actually operating and what is planned, it's north of 40 million tonne annualised.
5 times.
5 times.
Yep.
Now, at no point in time has anyone said, well, what does this mean as from a service? They all just expect that it's like taxi rank truck hire, right? You just ring up and you get the next Uber to sort it out. The reality is very different to that. So, what do I see as one of the big challenges for industry? Well, if they've piss poor performance results in poor outcome, right? So, or piss poor planning results in poor performance. The thing that concerns me is that exact fact that they are not taking into consideration the capital requirements to be able to service these particular operations. They're not taking into account the lead time, and they're not setting their ancillary service providers up for success. To the contrary, they're actually setting them up for failure.
It's very interesting observations. I mean, I would look at it also from the fact that the size of these trucks are frightening. Right, and they're on the road, and they're on public roads.
Yep.
And you've got to have someone to drive it.
Correct.
Yep. Right. So I know one of your initiatives was to set up a new to industry training program, because for someone who's not out of this industry to come in and take on driving a $1.5 to $2 million truck or road train that's weighing around 300 tonne, with how many trailers you got on the back of that?
3 or 4.
Three or four trailers. Yep. It's a skill. You need to be trained.
It's like grabbing someone from the Kalgoorlie Kangas D grade and saying, right, you're going to get a run in the AFL this weekend. It's just, it's exactly the same scenario. You need to understand that these things are effectively 300 tonne missiles, right?
Yeah.
And how do you control a missile? By making sure your guidance system is tuned and is well managed in the best way possible. And so ensuring that we have quality human beings that are skilled in the right way to be able to operate our fleet is really core to who we are and how we go about delivering, right? And for us, outside of looking after our people, which is my number one objective, ensuring that we deliver to our expectation internally for our customers is the next one, right? And that means that you need quality people trained well to be able to execute for you on a day-to-day basis. So the advent of our NTI program, led and championed by Mark, supported by a few key team members, and developed sort of internally within MLG, and very much a first, has been about taking people that have a skill set, so people that have driven heavy equipment, heavy road trains in agricultural environments, in general freight environments.
Similar to what your dad did.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And then putting them through a training pathway that not only skills them with the physical skills that they need, but also instills the MLG values in them. So when they go out and become a valued member of our team, they're going out understanding what it means to wear our logo and live life and go about their day-to-day task in the way that we would expect them to as an organisation. So.
How many of these big road trains have you got on the road?
Well, it's growing every day. We're sort of north of 180 odd now. So.
Yeah. Well, you just go back to that Leonora example where you've gone 5 times capacity. Correct. You would then subsequently need to have more of these style of transport on the road for haulage.
Correct.
So you've got to train up more drivers.
And that's coming back to your point around getting the planning right
in the decision-making area.
Yeah, and the logical thing within your mind is go, well, what part does autonomy play? Where does technology step in? And as a business, we are actively reviewing, investigating, studying all of those different pathways all the time. We've got a team that's focused on efficiency and delivery, and we're investigating a multitude of ways to try and create efficiency in it. But the reality of the environment that we operate in is it's typically lots of unsealed roads, very remote operations, poor comms platforms. The advent of human beings driving big road trains being removed by any form of autonomy, I think is a reasonable amount of way away. And
yes.
So it's pertinent upon us from an industry perspective to continue to train, to continue to invest, because I see human beings sitting in these things for a long period of time to come.
Yes, yes. An observation I made when I was out out around Higginsville not so long ago, I think I said to you, I saw one of your trucks on the road and they were using Bruce Rock Engineering. The back of it was under Bruce Rock Engineering, which is not far from, obviously.
From Cal,
yeah. And I thought that was a great wheat belt story as well.
Yeah, so we predominantly use two types of trailers.
Yeah.
We're big supporters of Australian manufactured and designed and engineered equipment. There's lots of alternative brands out there that are being imported that are a whole bunch cheaper, but for our on-road fleet, so we run two distinct fleets. We run an on-road fleet, which is the stuff that you saw, working for a great customer of ours at Higginsville in Westgold. That's predominantly built by Bruce Rock Engineering, designed, manufactured, and delivered by Damien and Vigut and his crew at BRE. And not only are they suppliers of us, but we've become great personal friends through the journey too. So they're consistently delivering the on-road equipment, and then we've got a large off-road fleet. So that that 300 to 360 ton fleet is all built out of an organisation called Murray Welding in Townsville, of all places. So
right?
About as far from the goldfields of WA as you can get in terms of procurement of fleet within Australia. So Mick and his team again become great friends through the journey, and he's delivering all of our off-road equipment, and both of those guys in their relative fields have been absolute engineering and industry leaders. We're getting inbound inquiry from places like Chile, Africa and so forth now, asking us to provide oversight into haulage operations that they're looking to have actually delivered in those countries and what they use from a fleet perspective.
So you're almost getting a consultancy role happening internationally, Mars?
Yeah, the one that they're not prepared to pay for, but we'll get there eventually,
slowly.
right?
I thought it was really interesting that when we're talking about trucks, there was an article written in Prime Mover magazine how you refurbished one of the historic road trains that was originally part of MLG in the early days.
Yeah, so Truck 3, the third truck that ever came into the fleet, we had a long history of associating, again, very proud Australians and proud Western Australians, but a long history with naming trucks after particular individuals. And our truck number 3, who's still out in the fleet going around and around today, went through a full refurbishment program a few years ago where it was a nut and bolt back to every single piece of it pulled apart, refurbished. And that was actually named after Billy Leahy, which was one of my dad's great uncles.
Yes.
So Billy landed at Gallipoli, First World War. So actually, I'll step back a bit and just explain the story because it's one that's worth telling.
Yeah, I was fascinated. I read that it was named in honour of Private William J. Leahy.
Yeah. So if you can imagine, Irish family. So this is my great grandparents, or great grandfather. So 5 brothers in Southern Ireland decide that they're going to immigrate to Australia. And they walked from Kilkenny down to Dover in the bottom of Ireland. And they were there for a couple of days before the boat was due to depart, and as typical Irish lads do, they got all juiced up, and one of the brothers, Danny, drank his fare, so he had to turn around and walk all the way back to Kilkenny. But the other brothers got on the boat, and they
drank his fare to get on the boat.
Drank his fare to get on the boat. So it was one thing that the Lays are renowned for is drinking a fair bit of beer. Right, they're pretty good at it. The rest of the brothers came out, and so my great-grandfather, Timothy, who happens to share my father's name too, he was the oldest of the 5 boys that came out. And they, so this was sort of circa 1910, somewhere there. They worked their way up towards Dalwallinu and took on some virgin blocks and started clearing blocks there. So to develop farms, to build businesses for themselves. The advent of war breaking out, Billy, one of the brothers, got on the boat after being an Australian for only a period of a few years, right? So sort of 4 or 5 years, and sailed back to Europe and landed at Gallipoli, and did the whole of the Gallipoli campaign. Survived, unlike so many other unfortunate Australians.
Yes.
And then went on to fight through the whole of the Western Front. And very close towards the end of the war, he was fatally shot at a little place called Morchees in France, which is not that far from Villers-Bretonneux.
Yep.
And is buried. I get goosebumps even saying this story because I've been and actually retraced all of his steps through the whole of the Somme as to where he wound up and where he died. And was killed not long before the end of the war. And my dad still has his toe tag and his medals and so forth now. And as part of homage to our history, to a man that immigrated to this great country that we live in, and effectively gave up his life, even though we only got to spend 4 or 5 years here, for me really stood as testimony to the opportunity this country can provide for families and individuals.
Yeah.
And I feel that as a custodian of a family name that has had people go before me and die at war in defence of our nation, to stand back and be able to pay homage through that pathway of naming an asset after him and having that go up and down the road every day with the man's name on it. I think it was just one little thing that I could do out of respect. So that truck did a full life cycle of close to 17 years. Obviously, it came into the fleet really early, and we turned around and did a full refurbishment, nut and bolt, led by our maintenance team in Kalgoorlie and a guy called Jeremy Keach, who was a fitter with us for a long period of time, so they really led the charge in refurbishing that asset. And it rolled out of the shed a few years away, 18 months ago now, and is now out earning $1 day to day. So Billy's still alive.
Hey, that's a bloody good story, mate. That's a really, I mean, it's quite appropriate given we've just had Anzac Day, and the opportunity to reflect. But obviously, it's very dear to your heart, and you've been able to give a small bit back.
Yeah, and it's
a small bit of recognition.
I was standing at Billy's grave in Morchees in France a few years ago, and if you've been to the Western Front or to the Somme in France, it's all predominantly a limestone, and so there's white stones everywhere. And I come out of the goldfields environment where it's predominantly a basalt, right? And sitting right up against his headstone was one piece of basalt. I've got no idea where that comes from. I've looked at the geological maps, and there is no basalt anywhere within 100 miles of the place, right? Yeah. Anyway, I thought, well, that is a sign, and I picked that bit of rock up and I stuck it in my backpack, and it's been everywhere with me in the world ever since. Right? So,
Muzz, so I look at where you're at now, and the business is going from strength to strength. I went through the clients that you have, and the revenue is growing well. Your observations around the industry. How do you see the next sort of 5 years unfolding with regards to how MLG is looking?
I think it's a good question, Tim. I think we have a huge amount of opportunity in front of us. We have a very defined business plan, large amount of growth, and a very well established footprint to be able to operationally deliver. But the most important piece that we have is a team that is absolutely first class.
Yeah.
One thing that I have been very fortunate to be part of is a great group of people that have helped me build my dream.
Yeah.
And in doing that, instilled their values too into the DNA of our business. And so where do I see the business going over the next 5 years? Like, I see us continuing to grow in a multitude of key areas. I think the interesting part about that hub and spoke model and the big processing facilities that are being built, every year that goes by, the resources get further and further and further away from those processing hubs, right? So the ore's got to come from further. So incrementally, you get this growth without having to bring a single new client on or single new operation. It just grows and grows and grows. But one of the key things that we see starting to play out, and it's actually in reverse to, I looked at the iron ore industry and went, this is what you're doing. I think the gold industry needs to do that. Well, now the iron ore industry is going through a similar transition shift in that historically all of those large-scale producers have had mines really close to their processing infrastructure.
Yes.
But the grade is depleting.
Yes.
They are in the situation now of having to start to incrementally replace low-grade tonnes from their close-based mining operations with high-grade tonnes from 20, 30, 40 kilometres away. So we've had a series of those majors come down and look at the hub and spoke model that we've built and have gone, well, how do we integrate that into our operations? Now, we've just completed a job with Rio Tinto at the West Turnus Incline, which is all about proving concept. And it went exceptionally well. Ultimately, they've got a conveyor belt running alongside a haul road. They wanted to see if they could increase volume for a period of time. We brought road trains in and delivered for them, and the team did an amazing job, which I'm immensely supportive of, or immensely appreciative of, sorry. That they've allowed us to build a relationship with a major that is going to go on and use that business model as they grow their business. So the next 5 years for us sees our existing gold customer base continue to grow and grow with scale. We see this supercharge event coming in, like the iron ore opportunities aren't 1 million tonne a year or 2 million tonne a year. They're 10 and 15 million tonne per annum. So it's huge.
Yeah.
And sitting right smack bang in the middle of it is this absolutely A-grade premiership winning team that has got its hands very much on the business and is driving it forward in the best way that it could possibly be.
And looking forward to the challenges as they come.
Very much so. Yeah, we've got an internal ethos of not what is a problem. It's we have a problem, how do we fix it?
Yes.
And that's instilled in every person across the management group of our business. It's not, oh shit, this is an issue. There's no defeatist attitude within MLG.
No.
It's how do we rise above this and come out the other side of it as a stronger, leaner, tougher organisation.
It's very inspiring, Muzz, very inspiring. Yeah, there's a lot of things I wanted to cover with you in terms of what are the drivers behind your life. And I know family is a very important part of that, right?
Immensely.
And not only your own family as you've grown up, but the one that you've created. And and I know you and Michelle got married back in 2011.
We did,
and she's been an integral part of that growth of MLG. And the kids. And they've obviously learned a lot from Dad and Mum through this period.
Yeah, good and bad. Good and bad. Yeah.
Just like you learned from your mum and dad.
Most definitely. So I guess everyone's got a family. I'm very fortunate to have a really good family that I'm immensely proud of and appreciative of. And but everyone's got a journey too, Tim. And like most people out there, my journey has had its twists and turns. And I met Michelle through some mutual friends. She was actually living and teaching in Bunbury at the time. We got married in 2011, but we'd been together for sort of 5 or 6 years at that point in time. So, probably 5-6 years after MLG had started.
Yeah.
And interestingly, in one of the very first conversations that we ever had, I was sitting chatting to her, and so where do you live, Murray? Where do you actually live? And I just said, I actually live in Kalgoorlie, and she's obviously Bunbury based, and she hung her head down, and I said, what's wrong with Kalgoorlie? And she said, well, can I tell you something? And yeah, please. Yeah. She said, well, as you know, I'm a teacher, and when I finished my degree, I had to list the 3 places that I would go to do my country prac. And at the time, my brother Gavin was studying at the School of Mines, and Gavin happened to be living with a couple of people that are now reprobate mates of mine, in Bill Beamont and Shane McClay, and all living in a shared house together. And Michelle wrote, "I will go anywhere in the state except Kalgoorlie." Fast forward sort of 7 or 8, 9 years, whatever it was, and then we met, and ultimately, we got past that point, and we moved on to become married. And to Michelle's credit, she worked out pretty early on that I was a person that she wanted to be with. I was a bit of a typical 20-something boy. I was off in the clouds doing what I was doing and pretty non-compass to everything that was going on. But anyway, she decided that she was coming to Kalgoorlie whether I liked it or not. And so she packed her world up and shifted to Cal, and we went on to ultimately become married and welcome 3 beautiful children into the world in Jazz, Jade and Zach, whom are all in their own ways very individual but very entertaining, great kids in their own right that I'm sure are going to go on to make their own positive impact in the world, and I couldn't be more prouder of the 3 of them. And for a long time, if I stand back and look at my journey, particularly in business, my dad has got this 10 rules of life hanging on the wall in his office at home, and the first rule, sitting at the top of those 10 rules of life, are: the person you marry will be 90% of your misery or your happiness. Choose wisely. And as young men, any time that girls came into the scene, he'd wheel us all in by the collar and he'd grab us and he'd be pointing up at this thing. And it's like God looking at the 10 Commandments, and he'd be banging on this thing saying, "Right, you need to understand." And I met Michelle at a point in my life where I think without knowing it now, I wanted someone to believe in me, and she believed in me in a way that I didn't think I was capable of being believed in, and that gave me the self-belief to go out and do what I did. And for the 20 years that we were together, and I'll touch on her story because it hasn't had a great ending, to be completely honest. She very much was the nucleus of our family. She embraced life in the goldfields. For a girl that said that she'd go anywhere except Kalgoorlie, it's fair to say, she embraced, fell in love with the goldfields, but the goldfields fell in love with her too, and she's had a profound impact on our whole community, not only our family. But she was my number one supporter. She, regardless of what was going on, through all the challenging times, through the times of no money, through the times of how we're going to pay payroll, the client challenges, the trucks rolling over in the middle of the night, trucks hitting trains, you name it, we've had to deal with it in our house. Yeah. She stood there through thick and thin, and she would be the one saying, "You've got this. You've got this," right? And all the while, sinking herself very selflessly into the support of our 3 children as well, and as part of that, instilled a zest for life in all of us. We love to travel. We love to do exciting things. And that was very much Michelle that opened my eyes up to that, but also put that zest and that zing into our kids. Yes. And we love to snow ski together. We love to go fishing together. I've just spent the Anzac weekend out in the middle of the bush at Mount Munga Station in Kalgoorlie, with dirt bikes and buggies and covered in red dust and flies, and camping, and had to drag the kids into the car to go home, right? Yeah. So I guess I look back on my journey now, and one of Michelle's challenges through that is she had a serious mental health condition, and that really started to raise its head sort of 10 years ago. So off the back of having children and so forth, serious amount of postnatal depression, and so I found myself in a situation where I had this girl that was driven, passionate, supportive, but really battling her own demons. And So our house is one where we have been immensely fortunate. 3 beautiful, healthy kids, great supportive family. But the nucleus being Michelle, and she was very much the nucleus of our family. I'm not going to take any credit for how great our kids are. She's the one that did the large portion of the heavy lifting. But she fought a mental health battle that went on for 10 years, and unfortunately, after 2.5, 3 really tough years, she lost that battle with mental health in the fact that she took her own life in October last year. So, which is, as an outsider looking at our lives, it would say, it would quite easy to draw the analogy. Look, you have everything. You have a great life. You have this huge business. You have a beautiful home. You've got 3 healthy kids. You get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And I think it's, the one thing that I have learnt through this journey is, true mental health challenges are things that, regardless of love, support, and structure, there are some things that you can put as much energy into, but you can't buy your way out of, right? And for me, the battle that my wife went through was something that I don't think any human being should have to go through, and it was actually heartbreaking to watch her go through that, watch a person that you love, admire and respect in such a strong way, in which I have and still do, lose their battle with trying to maintain the will to live. Yeah. And ultimately, for me, as I move forward and as a parent that is being provided the opportunity to instill her values in my children moving forward, and that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm an optimistic person. I'll forever miss her, forever be immensely appreciative of everything that Michelle did for me, because she did so much so selfishly over such a long period of time. But my job now is to make sure that my 3 children continue to understand the values that she built into us, and we go about living our lives being the best version of ourselves we can be, which is what ultimately she would have wanted. So.
Oh, Muzz, thanks for sharing, mate. The last 6 months, it's been pretty tough, and I know that you've had a world of support behind you, but we've all been obviously thinking of you.
Yeah, I think the reality of it is Michelle was a very private person, and her condition was something that she kept very much within the tight family unit. So I've had so many people reach out to me and go, we never knew. Yeah. Just never knew. Yeah. But that's a battle that together we had fought for a very, very long period of time, Tim. And that's sometimes you don't really understand the battle that you're in until all of a sudden it's over. Yeah. And so, when I stand back and reflect on, the particularly the 3 years leading up to Michelle's passing away, I can unequivocally tell you that woman gave it every single thing that she could possibly give it to try and find a way out of the other side of it for her family, for me, for my 3 children, for her brother and sister and her mum, for my family. But ultimately, she had an illness, just like cancer or any other terminal illness that just got her to the point where she was unable to see the value that she was bringing. And I have a genuine belief that the day that she took her life, she thought that she was making our lives better. She wasn't trying to run away from the issue that she had, and that's as a husband and father and a person that loved her, to actually try and contemplate the fact that the person that devoted their life to you actually thought that my life would be better if they took their own life is very, very hard to comprehend. But I genuinely feel that's the place that she was at when she died.
Oh, mate. Yeah, and digesting that and then the steps forward, the kids are going, taken on board?
Yeah, look, I think, my three children, and I can say mine now because I'm the one that's been challenged with the task of getting them to 18 in one piece, right? And look, I think as a family we spent a lot of years in the battle of support of a loved one with a serious mental health condition, and whilst my three children are at different points in their lives. So my oldest daughter's just turned 15. My Jade's 13, and Zach is 9. They have an acute understanding of what it's like to live in a house like that, and watch their mum battle an illness. And I think there's lots of families out there, Tim, that are exposed to those type of environments, right? So I don't think I don't think we are unique. I think there is a lot of people that will resonate with the story that I'm telling. But we spoke about it openly within our house a lot. We work collaboratively to try and support Michelle in the best way that we could possibly do that. And just the way my kids, particularly my daughters, as are older, would reach out, would actually care for their mum, wanting to engage, to understand how she's going. And I couldn't be prouder of the three of them. They've all gone about it in their own individual ways, but they're going through something now that I haven't been through, right? So I'm still fortunate to have my mum and dad with me, and I talk to them every second day. Those three beautiful kids at their age are going through life without their mum, who was a very impactful and dynamic mum too, right? So, but they, in typical Michelle style, they've looked at it from a point of view, well, life has dealt us this curveball. We've got two choices. We can either wallow in it, or we can live the best version of ourselves. I've talked openly about wanting to live the best version of ourselves, but I haven't had to do that on my own because I've got three kids that are right up my backside pushing me pretty hard to live the best version of ourselves, right? So,
yeah.
So no, they are. I'm immensely proud of the way they're going about living their lives, and very, very appreciative to have them in my lives. Although they do test me quite regularly. So.
Good on them. Good on them. Oh, Muzz, you're a bit of an inspiration. So thanks for putting that on the table, and no one could understand what you've been through, but that provides some insights.
I think, like I said a little while ago, Tim, as part of that story, our story is not unique. Yeah. I think I was immensely fortunate, as I said, to. Rule number one in life, the person that you pick will be 90% of your misery or your happiness. I had a whole bunch of happiness brought into my life through the advent of meeting Michelle and her becoming my wife. There's part of me that feels like I've been kind of robbed of, we had 20 years, 9.5 years together. Yeah. And we had very acute plans to go forward and live the rest of our life having a whole lot of fun. But, I'm also a person that stands back and goes, looks at the positive things that come out of every situation. And she'll forever be remembered. She'll ever, while she took a part of our hearts away on the day that she passed away, we also kept some of hers with us. And we will unequivocally be living life for the rest of my days on this planet with the values that she instilled with me, in me, and in our three kids. And for that, I'm just immensely thankful, right? So.
Good on you, mate. Unreal. Just as I said earlier, it is inspirational to hear you talk like this and feeling the way you are. So that's just fantastic.
Thanks. I appreciate it. But also want to acknowledge that there's a whole bunch of people out there that are going through similar journeys, right? And my journey is one that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. But every day we walk past people in the street that you don't know what they are personally going through, and sometimes as a society we become very self-focused. I think remember there was a slogan, "Courtesy is contagious." It was advertised sort of when we were going through our teens, and I think sometimes humanity loses sight of that, and hopefully me sharing my story might actually inspire some people to stand back that are going through a challenging point in their life and go, actually, well, the sun's going to come up tomorrow, and I can find the way to make the next steps. But it also might hopefully inspire the people that are around them to go, actually, I'm going to take time to just check in on that person. So
Absolutely. So, Muzz, with the, just talking about the kids, have they got your passion for anything that moves with engines and, aviation, planes, trucks, cars? Sounds like it, motorbikes and...
Yeah, motorbikes, dirt bikes, go-karts, downhill skiing at great speed. Yeah, look, whilst I might be 50, I'm living life like a 30-year-old at the moment because I've got 3 high-octane kids that it doesn't matter what it is in front of them. They want to do it, and they want to do it to the absolute best. So, we've got we all ski together, snow ski together, and the kids are all very competent skiers. We've got go-karts. Zach's just embarking on his go-kart racing career. We've got dirt bikes. We've got buggies. We've got, but they're also just as happy swinging a metal detector in the bush and camping, or being down some mosquito-ridden creek somewhere, flicking a lure at a barramundi. In the school holidays, we snuck into the Kimberley for a week and watched my daughter on her 15th birthday catch a 90-odd centimetre barramundi and then proceed to march around the boat and stir everyone up about she was the only one that got a barramundi on her birthday, right? So giving it to her dad about how she caught one and I didn't.
90 centimetres, not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, she's got a bit to go. She hasn't caught me yet, but I distinctly think that she's going to be a kid that's going to make sure she knocks me off at some point in time, right? So, yeah, all highly motivated kids that have got a real zest for anything that goes fast, and in particular Zach, my little 9-year-old boy. He's I was born with 2 left feet, by the way, unlike your family, who obviously have a great sporting heritage. Of the 3 boys, I couldn't play anything. I was the greatest watcher of sport going around. But my 2 brothers got the natural ability that came from my dad from a sports perspective. But my son Zach is a very gifted sportsman. He can he bowls leg spin and pace. He can bat. He's a bloody good footy player. He can anything with a motor. He just gets on, and it's 1 speed as hard as it can go. Yeah. To the point where sometimes I just want to cover my eyes, right? So he takes a whole lot of keeping up with. So yeah, there's going to be no shortage of working out where the fun limits are, because they're going to push us there.
Things that keep you on your toes.
Very much so. Yeah.
I just the role the goldfields have played in your life. You've got a wonderful community up there, and it comes back to what we were talking about with Michelle, and you've got friendships up there that are obviously very, very important to you.
Yeah, I think.
But I've heard you talk about that the power of what that goldfields community has, and it's a very, very special thing.
I think the power of friendship and camaraderie and community. I happen to be fortunate that I call Kalgoorlie home, and I also have a corporate office in Perth, and I spend a reasonable amount of time in Perth. Ultimately, I always gravitate back to being in the goldfields, and particularly when that becomes most evident is when you go through a journey like we've been through with the loss of a loved one in very, very stressful circumstances. The way that our community has rallied around us is, to say it's mind-blowing is just an absolute understatement. I've got a whole bunch of friends that have done so much more than I could have ever asked for. And whilst I can go through and name one after the other, people like Tim Topham and Ange Topham, Marcus and Nicky Norrish. We've got Greg and Kate Bowden, along with a whole bunch of others. And for those of you whose names I haven't said, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to get through them all today. But the way that our friendship group stepped up through that period, to say I was left humbled is an understatement. And I will be forever grateful for the impact that those guys had in the most stressful and challenging time of my life. But the wider Goldfields community, in the way that it just rallies around you. I've lots of people say to me on a regular basis, why do you live in Kalgoorlie? And there's a few basic reasons. The first one is the people that are there that I love and appreciate and are proud to call my friendship network. Secondly, when you go into a community like Kalgoorlie, no one ever asks, and you meet people socially, no one ever asks what you do. They all ask where you're from. So you don't have this preconceived socialisation of, he's a CEO and he's a truck driver, so we're not going to talk. It's everyone's from somewhere. They're not typically from Kalgoorlie, right? So you break down the social barriers. And from a business perspective, it has a very simple and loyal business ethos. If you say you're going to do something and you do it, you'll continue to be supported.
Yes.
If you say you're going to do something and you don't, that community will chop you off at the knees very quickly.
Yep.
And what that breeds is a level of commitment, dedication, resilience, and there is a whole bunch of us that have gone on to build material businesses. There's been some sensational businesses come out of the goldfields of Western Australia. If you stand back and look across the last 100 years, Warman Pumps, Burncart, Barminco, some of the biggest businesses in Western Australia actually stemmed out of Kalgoorlie, right? There's a whole bunch of them, and that ethos has been there through the test of time. Like that's the ethos has always remained there. It's if you invest in that community, 100% that community will pay you in spades tenfold, right? So why do I live there? It's because of all those things.
Oh, that's just wonderful. The other point I just wanted to highlight is you've got this annual trip. I know you love your fishing, but you head up to Papua New Guinea every year.
I do.
And I read interestingly a place called Bensback. Have I pronounced that right?
Yeah, centre of the universe. Like whilst Kalgoorlie is the centre of the universe for me. I think everyone needs an outlet, Banners, and for me, I've got a very eclectic group of friends that are a very tight and formidable bunch of lads that are from all over Australia. Yeah. And some 18 or 20 years ago, when we were first starting our crushing operations, actually in the Leonora region, my two brothers were actually working for me. So there's a bit of a story in this. My youngest brother Graham was born with a fishing rod in his hand, anyway, he was bringing these Fishing Wild magazines to work, and the three of us were there working together, getting this quarrying operation going. And just off the cuff one day, I said to him, "Well, I'll tell you what, you stick at this for the next sort of 12 months, and let's get this thing going together, and I'll shout us all, and we'll go to this place in Papua New Guinea, and we'll catch barramundi together." And anyway, they did exactly that. They got stuck into it, and you've reminded me of a whole bunch of things here now. So a few months later, we get on a plane in August, and we fly to Cairns, and we meet a guy who's now passed away by the name of Gary Barmby, who is running these fishing tours into the western provinces in New Guinea at Bensback. And on the plane we go, and off we go to the barramundi capital of the world, and have an absolutely deplorable trip. We hardly catch a barramundi. So I've been reading these articles forever that about how great this place is. And anyway, interestingly enough, we landed the very first time we landed. We stepped off the plane, and who should be standing there? Another fellow Goldfields business success who's tragically passed away a few years ago, and Alan Hahn. So I went, bloody hell, honey, how are you going, mate? Yeah, good, Murray. What are you doing? I'll come to catch some barramundi. And he told me about how great a trip they just had. And then ours was bloody ordinary. But it was that ordinary that we went, this can't be the norm. So the next year we went back and did it again. And interestingly, a few years passed by, probably 6 or 7, I can't remember the exact number. And the guy who, by the name of Craig McIlvaney, who's another absolutely sensational mate of mine, who happened to read the eulogy at Michelle's funeral and was there for me through that really challenging period. Gary Barmby, that I spoke about, rang me one day and said, "Hey, I've got these boys that are into shipping, and they're pretty keen on some barramundi fishing, and I reckon that you two guys are going to click. I reckon you're going to get on okay. Do you mind if they come along on our trip?" So by this stage, I was going each year with Gary and my 2 brothers, and we'd bring a couple of other people along. Flew to Cairns, met this bloke, and we sat down on the plane together and next to each other in a little King Air. And within 5 minutes of the conversation, I knew that this bloke was going to be a mate for life.
Yeah.
Like we were just brothers from another mother from the get-go, right? And out of that has stemmed this group of 8 or 9 guys that, on the 14th of July every year, we get on a plane, we meet in Cairns, we get on a plane, we go to Ben's back in PNG and catch barramundi for 14 days on a beautiful big floodplain that's one of the last untouched places in Earth, where all of the locals were getting up and down the river in dugout canoes and living a subsistence lifestyle. And we've built a rapport with the community there that I just look forward to every year. I get so much from it. It's so minimalistic. It disconnects you from technology. You're dealing with a bunch of people that have absolutely nothing and are so happy. Yeah, they're so happy. They're living life with the absolute bare minimum, and having such good fun. When you're cruising down the river in the morning, they're up on the banks, and all the kids are playing and laughing, and down swimming in the river as saltwater crocodiles swim past, and life's lives on the edge. It's lived on the edge, right? But it's a place that I've come to love, a community that I've come to love, a bit like the Kalgoorlie community, right? It's that they've really welcomed us in there, and there's only a select few group of people that get to go in there each year, and we continue to go, even though the person that established it, and Gary, has now passed away. And myself and Craig lead that group, and it's the same group of guys that go every year, and it is my material reset each year. I work towards the 14th of July and can't wait to get there. And we have a very, very active WhatsApp group that goes all year. And on the toughest of tough days, that WhatsApp group sometimes is what gets me through it. Right, the humour that plays out through that group, and the banter is sensational. And I very much look forward to that. So.
Good. I heard that story I read it about hats and pocket knives.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter how many hats and pocket knives you take, you've never got enough, mate.
They love it up there.
Yeah, they love it, yeah. And you'll see someone wearing an old I've actually got a picture on my LinkedIn page of Bruce, one of the guides, that he was running around with a hat that I'd give him like 10 or 12 years ago, just worn it to... hats, pocket knives, and sharpening stones, right? So, because they've all got a bush knife, and the one thing that there's because of the Western Provinces, all floodplains, there's no rocks, so there's nothing to sharpen the bush knife with. So, I typically buy Bunnings out of their little handheld sharpening stones every year, and then fight with the MacJet guys about how I've got too much weight when we get on the plane, but ultimately sneak as many through as I can, and they all come running down the airstrip when we land, because I know Murray's going to have some stuff that's really valuable, little handheld pocket knives and a sharpening stone and an MLG cap to wear. So.
This is unreal. Oh, look, mate, I'd love to chat for ages. I've got to wind it up. It has been wonderful. I really appreciate your time. Covered a lot of ground. It's congratulations on the business. It's huge, and as you highlighted, the next 5 years are pretty exciting.
Very much.
Thanks for giving us your insights into what has been a pretty tough personal experience and battle that you've been through, and the insights. As I said to you earlier, no one really could understand unless they've been through it. So, mate, thanks a lot for sharing with us. And a lot of people will take a lot away from that. So thank you. And I really just want to say, Muzz, it takes a fair bit of courage sometimes to come out and talk openly about things that happen in life, and you did it so well, mate. You did it really well, and I'm just blown away with the way that you've been able to put it all in perspective. So I suppose at the end of that, I want to say that on behalf of all of us at Euroz Hartleys, thanks for taking the time out to be on the show, and we really appreciate it. It's been epic. So thanks, Muzza.
No worries. Thank you, Banners. Really appreciate the opportunity for the team. And I'll just close by saying, for me, I've got a pretty simple ethos and philosophy in life, and it's making memories is what it's all about. And it doesn't matter whether it's in business, it doesn't matter whether it's in family, it doesn't matter whether it's experiences. I have a distinct goal that if I'm fortunate enough to become an old man, I'm already getting there actually, by the way. If I'm fortunate to become an old man, I want to be an old man that has the opportunity to stand back and reflect on my life, reflect on the great people that I've been fortunate enough to be able to be involved with and cross paths with, but also have a hard drive of memories that's absolutely overflowing, and that's what drives me every day. And I think our society is one that probably errs on the side of caution now. So I'll just encourage people to hopefully take some of my story on and be inspired to go and take the next challenge on, be it being good at some sport, climbing some mountain, creating some experience, or making a difference in their community. Right, that's all I ask for. So.
Love your work, buddy.
Thanks
a lot. Thanks
Cheers.
a lot. See ya.
Thanks for listening to Euroz Hartleys Finding the Front. This podcast is for general information purposes only. Please check out eurozhartleys.com for more information. Euroz Hartleys holds Australian Financial Services Licence 230052.